DJI Weekly Update with Canadian Drone Hub. Got that coming up next. Yesterday morning, I made my weekly appearance on Canadian Drone Hub and gave them my weekly DJI update. This week, we discussed such topics as the article regarding the Phantom series by Hey Kesteloo, my thoughts regarding the continuation of the Phantom series, the DJI cameras, the Spark, and a whole lot more. So let's go ahead and roll that clip right now.
Well, good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Boy, I tell you what, there is a whirlwind of news this morning. Wow.
We've been waiting.
Yeah, this is wow. This is like NBC or one of the major networks breaking in kind of a thing here. I'll digress back to a few weeks ago. Drone Owners Network is run by Curtis Dart, and he's a good friend of Bill Thomas, myself, and Ron Brown. And we're going to be on there tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. So take a look. It's called Drone Owners Network. And if Bill Thomas is on, maybe he can drop a link in the chat. Well, anyway, on that, he had Romeo Dersher, who's DJI's Director of Public Safety Integration. And Curtis has been great friends for years with Romeo. And one of the questions, he was asking for questions from the audience, and I went in as an audience member, and I said, is this the end of the DJI Phantom line? That was a question that I had asked. Well, Curtis asked the question to Romeo directly. He said, we have some questions from someone, Bill the drone reviewer, and Romeo right away acknowledged, I was on Bill's show. Bill's a great guy. Always loved to talk technology. Well, Romeo said on the show that this is the end of the Phantom 4 line as we know it. The only thing that they will be producing is the Phantom 4 Pro RTK, the mapping drone. Okay. So I went out and I put out a video that says this is the end of the Phantom line. Well, I was asked to take that video down, which I did. I complied with that. Well, yesterday on Drone DJ, Hey Kesteloo, if you guys are familiar with Drone DJ at all, has come out with a 3-part series about the Phantom. And, basically, is this the end of the Phantom line kind of a thing? Well, what ended up happening was he posted the link to Drone Owners Network from the episode that Romeo was on. Well, this morning, there was an article on The Verge, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you guys can go ahead and see that here. It's, basically what they are saying is DJI denies that it's discontinuing its iconic Phantom drones. I'll drop a link here for this, but basically what they're saying in this article is Dersher's answer was a response to a question that had been on drone enthusiasts' minds for a while now. What happened to the Phantom 4? Because every single version of the latest Phantom, save the commercial RTK model, has been out of stock for at least a month now. Some retailers showing them as discontinued. And today, Drone DJ is reporting that an unannounced Phantom 5, one that would have been interchangeable lenses, has been canceled as well. And now the interesting part here is this is Adam Lisberg, who's DJI's communications director. As for the Phantom 5 rumors, we've never considered making a Phantom 5 in the first place, so there's nothing to cancel, adds Lisberg, who told Drone DJ last fall that the leaked photos of a suspected Phantom 5 were just actually a one-off design for a customer, which everybody already had known about that. Now, Dersher's answer was basically they're saying that Romeo Dersher misspoke. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead. I'll drop a link here in the description, but this is pretty heady stuff here, guys. I mean, this is a full on, we're having to deal with this stuff. And this is real interesting. I mean, Hey Kesteloo came out with this article yesterday, and then next thing we know, we're seeing this. So the plot is thickening, as they say.
Bill, what's your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts as far as like the Phantom line is concerned, and I'm, this is not a popular opinion, but I think this is the right one. I majored in computers and in business. And if you're a marketing person and you know about the money that it takes to build up a brand or a brand name, an iconic brand name, I mean, you always think of Nike, you think of the swoosh. You think of Coca-Cola, you think of the registered, trademark name of Coca-Cola. You think of Phantom. What do you think of? Okay, now obviously I'm not talking Phantom the Opera, but you think of DJI. I mean, this is like an automatic kind of a thing. It just pops right into your mind. So I don't think that and this is the one thing that I have been saying is they're not going to kill that name. Okay. Whether or not it's not going to come back, it's not going to look the same. It's not going to have the iconic look with the legs and all that. It will come back in some shape or form, but it won't look the same. That's my opinion on it.
And any thoughts about, this year, next year? I know you've said in the past that you think there's going to be an Inspire 3 coming out the end of the year.
Well, that's pretty much what was real interesting was, and this is the other thing I wanted to talk about, was Rick Smith was on Coast to Coast Drones Bucket List Boys on Wednesday night, and it's always a treat to have him on. And this is the second time within 2 weeks I've heard the word Inspire 3 mentioned. So he accidentally kind of let it slip out. So I believe we're going to see an Inspire 3 before the end of the year. And I think with the Inspire 3, it's going to be smaller, but the technology is going to be jumped up. You're going to see better cameras with it. You're going to see increased runtime with it. You're going to see better avionics as far as obstacle avoidance is concerned. That's the big thing right there. Where I think that this, the Phantom name is going to come in, Paul, is going to be, you're going to find something. The Mavic 2 is just enormously popular, and with good reason. And a lot of people can't afford the Inspire series. So DJI, and this is the talk that I keep hearing, is they're going to be coming up with a drone, and I call it, for lack of a better term, a hybrid drone that's going to fit have the portability of a Mavic 2, but yet have all the capabilities of a Phantom 4 Pro. And I think they're going to keep the name Phantom for that. I really do. I don't think that name is dead at all. I think the image, what you think of a Phantom, is probably going to go away. It's going to change. And I think a lot of this is the X Dynamics Evolve has come out. And, this is something, and we talked about this with Rick Smith when we had him on Wednesday night. It is a great looking drone. In fact, I hate to even use the word sexy as a drone, but I mean, it's a nice looking drone, and it's good. It has some shortcomings. It has a short runtime. It's loud, doesn't have obstacle avoidance. The camera on it is not as good as the Mavic 2, but it's a step in the direction. And I think this has probably prompted DJI to say, the Phantom line isn't dead as far as a name is concerned. As far as the image is concerned, probably.
And as far as marketing goes, they could come out with a big Phantom rebirth program, like here's the rebirth of the Phantom.
Oh yeah. DJI is experts at it. And I have to tell you this, from being at a DJI event when we were at the See the Bigger Picture event last year in New York City, they do everything. They build up the brand as good as, or even better than, say, companies like Nike does. They are all about that name, the iconic image, the what they had with the promo, the trailer videos for the Mavic 2. They just go all out with this, and it builds up a brand image in your name. I mean, when you think of the Mavic, boom, you have that image that's instantly in your mind, and that's why they didn't go from such a radical departure from the Mavic Pro to the Mavic 2, because that image is in your mind, and it really, and right now I can tell you, as far as like my Facebook groups are concerned, my Mavic 2 group is going to pass up my Spark group. My Spark group's at about 2,500 people. My Mavic 2 group is at 2,300, and I seem to get 5, 10, 15 people a day joining that group because, again, it's a popular drone.
Yes.
From the outside looking in, you're talking about branding, and they've done a great job with the Mavic. Most people to this day, if you were to tell them, the layman people, to draw a drone on a piece of paper would end up looking something like the Phantom. I mean, it's got to be the most iconic branding, I think, in drone history. It's amazing.
It really is.
With it, you know?
It really is. I mean, when you think about it, that is such a good point because, you think about the names that you've grown up with and you think of things, if you think of, like, for instance, the minivan, you think of the original Dodge and Plymouth minivans.
Right.
When you think of Nike, I mean, the swoosh, when you think of, Coca-Cola, you think of that iconic can of Coca-Cola or bottle of Coca-Cola.
Right.
I mean, and same with Pepsi Cola too. These brands are built up through the years, and you don't just go out there and say, you know what, I think we need a new direction. I think we need to change things. So we're gonna do that. I mean, you saw how Coke fell flat on its face during the 80s, I think, when they tried Coke 2 or the new Coke kind of a thing. So that doesn't work. Stick with what you got, and DJI's got something great with that.
I got to jump in for a second here. I have to run up the street to meet somebody. I'm going to jump out of the chat in the live stream, and Roger, I'll be back. If I'll text you or put in the chat if I'm going to come back in, just in case you have too many people down there.
Okay.
Bill the Drone Reviewer, awesome stuff. I was waiting for you to come in. I'm glad I was able to see you a little bit, and everybody in the chat and everything. I will see you in a few. Okay, John.
Take care, John.
All right, see you guys.
Well, I also have some more DJI news too, and we got this when we had, like I said, we had Rick Smith on Wednesday on Coast to Coast Drones, and it's always a treat having him on. And I got to introduce him he got to meet and really talk to Bill and Ron for the first time. And one of the things that he talked about was, I hit him right out of the gate, and that's what I usually do. I ask him the tough questions. And the one thing that I asked him, I said, so what can we expect? Well, as far as a camera was concerned, now we had talked about the DJI Osmo Pocket and then them upping that with a 1-inch sensor, calling it the DJI Osmo Pocket Pro. Well, apparently he's under a non-disclosure agreement. So what we're going to be seeing some type of an iteration of a camera, I believe, at this next event. And Bill Thomas is of the opinion, and it really kind of intrigued me, that DJI is going to come out with not only a DJI Action Cam, but a DJI Osmo Pocket Pro with a 1-inch sensor. And that kind of blew me away when he was talking about that. I mean, the whole field, as far as the Action Cam field is concerned, that's a huge market right there. I mean, look at GoPro. Look how many units they sell each year. I mean, it really, and GoPro's done it right. I know Ron Brown, who I know very well, with the image stabilization in the GoPro, it's second to none. And DJI is going to have to really, step up as far as, if they are coming out with an Action Cam, it's going to have that kind of image stabilization or even better to compete with something like that. But yeah, that's what we're going to see. We're going to be seeing a camera at the next event. It's not going to be a drone.
No, that's what I thought also.
So the idea of a Spark 2, that's kind of shelved, or is that?
No, that's a good question, Paul. I just put out a video from on the Spark 2. You guys probably saw that from my Tuesday night Rotor Talk Live. And what I did was I went back and I revisited what Ositalev had said about a year ago about what a Spark 2 would be like. And it's really, it's really kind of tweaked in terms of the abilities of the Spark. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people are kind of missing as far as that's concerned. When we get a Spark 2, it's not going to be this Mavic Air, okay? It's going to be, you're going to see the same probably image, design, everything. It's going to be tweaked. You're going to have the 4K camera. You're probably going to have rear obstacle avoidance. You're probably going to have new ESCs and new quieter props on there. Probably going to hook it up with a cable instead of Wi-Fi to increase the transmission range. So, I mean, there's going to be some, and the whole idea for this, and a lot of people miss this, and this is a good point, Paul, is that you want to keep the cost down, because the selling point of the Spark is the cost. I mean, you can, somebody had posted this morning on my latest video and said, well, the Mavic Air is a Spark too. And I said, no, you're missing the point. The Mavic Air is $799. The Spark itself is $499. Okay. It's the price point, because, drones like the Hubsan Zeno, the Xiaomi Z8, they're starting to eat away at DJI sales with the Spark right now. So that's why we will see the Spark 2. I'm not sure, from right now, from the top, from hearing Rick the other night, though, I don't think it's going to be at this next event. I think it will be shortly thereafter, but I don't think the Spark's going to be coming out at the event. But still, it's coming. I mean, because all my sources, everybody I hear from, Paul, Roger, everybody, all I keep hearing is about the Spark, because the market segment, DJI wants to dominate the market segment. They want to be number one. And in order for them to do that, they have to focus on, segments at a time. Well, they paid a lot of attention to the smaller segment with the Spark and the Mavic Air, but they need to revisit the Spark, because, it's coming up on 2 years. And as as far as 2 years is concerned, that's old as far as technology is concerned. It needs to, they need to have a refresh with this. So yeah, we're going to see it. It's just probably not going to be right now.
Do you have any information? Is Spark sales holding, or is it dropping a little, or increasing, or are they maintaining their edge in that market?
I would say right now, I think it's kind of even, Paul. And the only real bellwether that I have with this, because DJI doesn't release sales figures per drone, but I'm going on memberships to the groups, and it's a pretty big Spark group that I have. It's about 2,500 people, and it's kind of keeled. It's kind of even. Okay, I'll get maybe 3 or 4 instead of, I used to be getting 3 or 4 a day. I'm getting 3 or 4 a week now. With the Mavic 2, however, I am getting 3 or 4 a day. And that's around 2,300, and that's catching up. I mean, that was not that long ago, about 1,900 people, and it's going to pass up the Spark group. So I would say sales have kind of plateaued. I know one of my friends, you guys may have seen his channel, Idaho Quadcopters, Marcus Crawford. He just bought a Spark, and he's having some fun with that and comparing it to the Zeno and everything, which it really can't, because of the 4K camera difference. And one of the big things that a lot of people don't realize is that the camera that is already in the Spark, it is 4K capable. It's just not, the firmware is just not activated in it.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Any more news, Bill?
Well, as far as DJI is concerned, probably not. But for me, next week, I'll definitely try to be on Saturday morning. My wife's having outpatient surgery on Friday, so my weekend is going to be, I'm going to be playing Nurse Bill next weekend. So that's going to be real interesting. I'm always there for her. I mean, it's kind of funny because she's having the same surgery I had 2 years ago, gallbladder and hernia. And I told her, I said, I got to tell you this. All right. You underestimate with hernia surgery. She goes, oh, I'll be up in a day or two. I'll be fine. And I just started laughing. I was like, because you know what? I said, I thought the same thing. And I told her, I said, you know what? I'm not one to take a lot of pain pills, but I'll tell you what, I finished every one of those oxycodones. I'll tell you that. It's just not, a hernia surgery is probably one of the most painful surgeries on the planet, because it affects everything. When you're down here, you move. I mean, there were days that I would just stay in a chair. I wouldn't even go to bed, because I needed to be able to get out and go to the bathroom and stuff, and I needed some leverage to be able to push on. And I actually fashioned I used an old belt around my headboard so I could pull myself up and get out of bed. I mean, it was that. Wow. Yeah, wow. It's not fun, but yeah, that's going to be my weekend next weekend. Oh yeah, I do have some other news. I think you guys might know what this is.
Yeah, smart.
Got the smart controller this week, and I'm going to be doing a whole series. Going to be doing a tutorial on it. Going to be doing a first flight on it. I'm real anxious, very, very, very anxious. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Bill, in your discussions, have you over since the last week? I know we talked last weekend. Any more insights or any more buzz about the Enterprise Duo Zoom coming out?
You know, I actually posed that question and I haven't heard back, Paul. You know, because and here's my thing. You know, I think you hit a hot topic here because you know the Anafi came out with their thermal at $1,900, and you know the price point. You know, I hate to say this. You know, the price point really is what speaks loudest here in an
Right.
instance like this. You know, especially with like, you know, first responders and smaller first responder organizations, you know, that don't have that kind of a budget, they're going to gravitate to what costs less. I mean,
Right.
it's going to be automatic. So, and this is a huge market. And, you know, and the big thing here is, as we discussed last week with this, is they need to combine that Zoom camera with the thermal camera that's on the Dual. I mean, no questions asked. I mean, it just and see, and I haven't seen any footage from the Anafi thermal, but I bet it already does that. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably DJI's probably, you know, paying attention here. I could say
Well,
that.
and the other thing too, Bill, is they're probably scratching their head going, how does he know this stuff? You know, how does he know what we're up to?
Oh yeah. You know, and you know, it's not rocket science as far as this is concerned, because you know I had the Dual for a week, and I can tell you the regular camera on there, it's not even. This is my personal opinion. It's not even okay for a regular drone. Okay, it's just not good. It's just.
Yep.
But their problem was, and I understand from an engineering perspective, and this is one thing. This is why I like Rick Smith so much, because he's an engineer, and he brings you back to an engineering perspective. You know, think about them having to fit two cameras in basically just a little bit bigger of a module than like the Mavic 2 Pro. And that was the challenge for DJI and for their engineers, and they did it. I mean, they did. You know, hats off to them as far as an engineering feat is concerned. But you know, as far as you know, it's still a great tool. Can it be better? Yeah, it can be a lot better, and especially like we talked about with having a Zoom camera in there. I mean, it's invaluable as far as that's concerned.
Exactly. And one other question about the Enterprise. I took my regular Enterprise out and was flying a ship with it the other day and flew perfectly, you know, just like the regular Mavic 2 Zoom. However, what I have noticed the last few times I've used it, get up around the 6 minutes of flight time, and all of a sudden the pilot app crashes. It doesn't affect the flight. Actually, it just goes to a hover. But I have to restart it, and within a half a minute or so, it comes back up to where it was. But I'm just wondering, it isn't just once. I've had it happen just about every time I fly that Enterprise.
Well, yeah, that's something I would probably, you know, if you have Twitter, I would contact DJI support, because that app shouldn't do that, Paul. It should be able to, you know, run through it without any problems. You know, that's one that you need to send to DJI support for sure.
Okay, because I just didn't know if you'd heard of that before.
Now, one other thing that I wanted to talk about is, as far as DJI is concerned this morning, is, you know, I know a lot of people, including myself, and you may have gotten this too, Paul, is a gimbal motor overload error. Yeah. And, you know, I talked about this with Rick Smith the other night, and, you know, see if he's heard of it. And he says, yeah, he's had a lot of people ask him this question too. Now, you know, one of the number one things, and I always tell this to people, you know, I know a lot of guys like to be macho and launch them from their hands or wherever, which is okay. But I tell you what, when you land these drones, you need to remember something, okay? You're landing $1,500 over dirt, over grass, over sand. And you know what? It gets up, and this is the thing that Rick kind of thing, you know, it gets up into the mechanisms. Now, you know, when you're landing the Zoom or the Pro, or, you know, that gimbal, you know, if the gimbal's facing, if you're 90 degrees down, it automatically goes up. I mean, you know, when it's like 3 feet from the ground, it does that all the time. And it does that on purpose to you know, as far as not to damage the camera is concerned. Number one recommendation is use a landing pad. how many times, I've preached this ad nauseum, and a lot of guys want to be macho. Oh, I can catch the drone and da 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 da. You know what?
Don't do it.
Don't be macho here, guys. Okay, because I've seen too many instances of people getting cut by their drones. All right, it's not worth it. All right. Number one is a landing pad. Number two, Rick said, get a Q-tip. All right. And look around the mechanism as far as, in both the Pro and the Zoom. And if you see any dirt, just gently, put a little dab of water on it and just go around there and just go through that and clean that off. And the other thing, and this is the one that I had suggested and Rick agreed, was, if you're getting that and you haven't, there's no dirt there and you've been using a landing pad and everything, completely shut down your drone, completely shut down your remote, power on the remote again, power on the drone again. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to take care of that gimbal motor overload error. And then the biggest thing with this is, and this is something, it's the old iconic, I left the cover on. All right. Because if you leave that gimbal cover on, okay, you're stressing it out. I mean, it's trying to go through its pre-flight checks, and it's just not going to be happy about that at all. And if you keep doing that enough, you're going to have to end up sending it back to support for them to fix it.
The other thing I thought, Bill, and what I'm going to start doing is, those cans of air you use around your computer, is to carry that with me. And every few flights or whatever, just give it a little dust off up in the mechanism and everything else. Not overdo it, but just blow out whatever's in there,
That, Paul, I couldn't agree more. When I went out to the beach with Ron Brown, the first thing I did when I got back was I got my can of air out and just gently went around.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect thing to do.
Flying, sometimes you get those little bugs in the air and stuff, and they're being sucked in there and through there, and I just thought a can of air would be a little bit of prevention,
Oh yeah. Oh, and one of the other things is too, and a lot of people don't do that or do this, as far as the gimbal motor overload is concerned. If you have a filter on when you're starting up the drone, okay, that's going to cause a gimbal motor overload error. You got to fire up your drone before you put your cover on. If you don't, you're going to get that motor overload error. I mean, it just
changes the balance of what it's expecting.
Exactly. I mean, because it's all, DJI, say what you will about them, but they're very precise with things. And, it has to be within a certain tolerance, when it's going through its boot up program. And if it's not there, you're going to see those errors. That's why I tell people, I said, you know what? That's why you follow the rules. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Oh, lots of good information.
Well, guys,
Bill, before you go, I don't know if you know Andrew from Pusa Studios. Andrew's kind of the Lord of the live stream, but anyway, that's another story. But Andrew is going to start flying. He has a son, and they're going to start exploring flying a drone. In fact, Roger's going to be sending them one, and I also think he's probably going to be getting another one, probably a Spark soon, so that both he and his son can go out and fly. And any suggestions for him?
As far as a drone to get, or as far as flying?
Flying, learning to fly.
Flying. Okay. Well, the first, my number one suggestion, Andrew, find a big open field, because open fields are very forgiving. Okay. Yeah. If you go in an area where there's a lot of trees or vegetation, that isn't so forgiving, because when you do that, it's, 9 times out of 10, if something might happen, it will happen. So that's my number one recommendation, is to find a big open field. I mean, that just, and you can find them. I mean, that's where I took my very first drone flight was, it was New Year's Day, and it was behind a church that had a soccer field, and there was nobody there. So look for a place like that. That's my number one recommendation. Number two is make sure that battery's charged before you leave. Make sure it's completely charged up and ready to go.
Okay.
Controller for the controller and the aircraft.
Yes, Paul brought up a good point. Both the controller and the aircraft. Those are the first two.
And the landing pad, right? Like I see one behind you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I got one. I got one. It's all ready to go. And see, that's a nice thing with me. Over on my table that's behind me over there, I have the Mavic 2's all ready to go. I'm going to expand it. I'm going to be adding the Phantom 4 over there, but it's like I can grab and go now. And especially, now having the smart controller, it's definitely going to be grab and go. Be able to catch, like you guys may have seen that beautiful sunset that I did. It was probably late last year that I did that, but that was one of those. I got home and, I saw the sun out there and my wife says, you got to get that. So, I ran out. I had batteries in one hand. I had the Mavic in the other hand. I had the controller. I mean, I was running to get out there and caught it. And I did catch it, but having a smart controller is going to make that world of difference. Oh, one other piece of news regarding that. You probably saw there was a big update for the smart controller this week, and it now work. And Paul, this is probably especially meaningful to you. It's now working with Mavic 2 Enterprise and Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, which is kind of huge. Original Dobo, if you haven't watched his channel, he put out a great video about that, so you definitely want to check that out. But one thing that I did ping DJI support about, and they still haven't, they confirmed that they're going to do it. It's just not when. That it will work with the Phantom 4 Pro V2.0 because it has OcuSync 2.0. They just haven't confirmed a date to me when they're going to be able to do that. So, I'm hoping sooner rather than later because you know what? This is so much nicer to be able to take out than the controller for the Phantom 4. The controller for the Phantom 4 is a beast.
Andrew, any questions you have? Is it going to be a new drone pilot?
No, I was just taking it all in. I mean, a wealth of knowledge, and I just love hearing anybody who really knows their stuff and anything. So I think this is amazing for everybody in the chat. Always a great job.
Oh, one of the other things, Andrew, that I can give you, try to gauge your wind that day because especially if it's a light drone, it can get picked up and carried away in the wind. And no matter what you do, you're going to watch your new drone go to parts unknown. So
okay.
Try to gauge your wind. And the other thing is I would try to keep it, for your first few flights, at least under 50 feet.
Yeah.
Because when you start getting above 50 feet, winds start to get wonky. You don't know what you're going to be facing up there. So yeah, just try to keep that under 50 feet, I would say.
My son and I, we shoot trains together. That's our father-son things in the summer. We got some fields up by Ontario and the border where it's all farmland. So we already even have a place. There's tree lines that block some of the wind, for the first 50 feet or so, and they're wide open spaces. So that's where I think we're going to probably head for the first couple of flights.
Perfect.
And the other thing I would add to that is I always tell everybody low, slow, and keep the rear end of the aircraft toward you at all times until you get oriented to left is left, right is right, forward is forward, back is back. Because when you turn that aircraft around facing you now left is right, right is left, forward is now back, and back is now forward on the control sticks.
Huh. Good point. That's a very good point. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, I'm gonna part ways here. I'm gonna be on. We're gonna be on Drone Owners Network tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll send a link to Roger so he could get that out to you guys. I'm looking forward to it. It's always great. I love being on here Saturday mornings with you guys.
You're part of the family, Bill.
All right, you guys. Everybody have a great day today. Take care.
Bye, Bill.
Nice seeing you.
Question of the day. What did you think of this week's DJI Weekly Update with Canadian Drone Hub? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the content from today's video, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and tell others about the channel. Also, be sure to check out my Facebook page where I do post daily updates regarding the drone and drone industry and anything DJI, Autel, or Parrot related. Also, be sure to check out my Twitter account where I do post daily updates and Instagram as well. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, it's a great day to fly.